Is the coach of your AFL club close to being on the hot seat on a scale of flaming to freezing? Where does your coach stand going into 2024? Let's have a chat. If you've watched my draft review video, you'll know that I've done a tier list before, and I actually really like doing this. I don't know why I haven't done more of it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, who knows. But sorting all 18 coaches going into 2024, are they on the hot seat or are they cool, calm, and collected? All that good shit. So make sure you've subscribed. Guys, we are going gangbusters at the moment. So if you could jump on board, that would be amazing. Come and join the Daz Talks Footy family. Let me tell you, we are going through the entire off-season, talking all things current, past, future. It's all good. Get on board. Do it. Nike, just do it. Not a sponsor. Let's get into it. Matty Nix has still got multiple years on his deal. Adelaide are a growing side. He's definitely cold. I think his seat's quite cold. Could that improve? Not improve, but could that actually get worse for him if Adelaide don't start well? Potentially. I know my expectations of Adelaide are a top 4 side. If you've watched my top 4 video or watched pretty much anything where anyone, I should say, is jumping on board the Adelaide bandwagon, you'll know that me and the Crom fans, we built it first, guys. All right? Yeah, first class carriage, it's booked out. It's me and the Crom. Get down the back of the bandwagon, will you? My goodness. But if they do start terribly, or if they have like a 6-17 kind of year, I could see the question being asked about Matty Nix's kind of position there at the Crows, but I don't think there is no realistic way I don't see Matty Nix being the Adelaide coach in 2025. Therefore, he'll make it through 2024. You could make the argument, why isn't it freezing? Because not many coaches belong in the freezing section. So, there we go. Chris Fagan, I think his job is safer than Matty Nix because they've got, obviously, the recent history in terms of the grand final. But I still hope there's internal pressure from Brisbane, and I only say that because it seems like the Brisbane trajectory is slowly going upwards, so they've had some final series, then they had to break through the prelim into the granny. So close. So close is not good enough. Now, anyone knows that, that's fine, but it's how Brisbane respond this year that is going to be interesting is, how many more years do you give this group before you wonder whether the coach is the problem? But throughout 2024, I don't think that is the case. And if someone said to me, someone's losing their job out of Fagan and Matty Nix, gun to your head, you have to pick, I would pick Nix, but I would be stunned if either of these guys lost their job. Michael Voss, does the Melbourne-based media make him higher than Matty Nix? Potentially, but another prelim final team, but it is Carlton. Who's safer out of... Oh, actually, now that I think about it, they need to be swapped. If Chris Fagan's safer than Matty Nix, he needs to be towards the bottom. Come on, Dazzling. I'm going to put Voss here, I think. I think the weight of expectation, it's kind of... Michael Voss is a cross between Matty Nix and Chris Fagan, it seems, at this point. Simply because either he's got enough time left on his deal that I don't think they're going to ship him off, even if Carlton don't do as well this year. And I'm thinking the only way Michael Voss gets the sack is if Carlton finish bottom 2 next year, which is not happening. Again, you could make an argument, why aren't these guys freezing? Because there is a certain criteria that would go into the freezing category. But I think that because A, it's Carlton, and B, maybe because it's Michael Voss, maybe he belongs there. But again, I would be stunned if Michael Voss is not the Carlton coach. So, Craig McRae, look, unpopular opinion, but I think we've got to talk about that Craig McRae is actually under serious pressure in 2024. I was going to make a long-winded video on this, but I don't know, maybe let's summarise the key points, right? Because I think it's nonsense what Collingwood are doing with the coaching choice, right? Because they're not going to play anyone that finished above them next year. They're barely leaving Victoria. If this goes to hell, Craig McRae is in serious trouble. I couldn't finish it with a straight face. Of course his seat is freezing. Are you kidding me? The reigning premiership coach, they could go 0-23 next year. They would not sack Craig McRae. They should be borderline building the man a statue at... Jesus, what's their training base called? Who cares? Just put one in the middle of Gosh's paddock, and they'll be good with that. I sincerely hope there are Collingwood fans that have commented before I finished my point about how stupid I am, or someone grabs this and puts it on like a social media of being like, this is the worst take ever, and just omitting the last bit. That makes me really happy. But of course, come on, it's Craig McRae. Of course not. Bradley Scott. Again, I think the time on his contract saves him. I think Michael Voss is under a bit more pressure, so I'm going to put Scotty in here. But again, cold. It would have to be an unmitigated disaster. But again, if Essendon don't make finals this year, the question needs to be asked. They had a good off-season. I've bought all of their stock in their 3 draftees. Things have got to start happening for this group. Ben Mackay's got to help that defence. They need to find ways to score that isn't Peter Wright. Put those things together and Essendon have got a winning formula. Will they find it? Who knows? But if it isn't a good year for the Bombers, I could definitely see Brad Scott being in the warm area or maybe the back end of flaming. But in terms of 2024, I think he slots in there quite nicely. Justin Longmuir. Definitely putting him in the warm department here. I think Freo right now, yes, they did have a poorer season last year, but I think if Freo's list was in Victoria, and this is where you got to wonder, is the Vic bias really a bad thing sometimes? I think if a side like Freo were in Victoria, the massacre on the Eastern Seaboard would have been tremendous. But this is a guy now, and this is a club that has got a very good young list, in my opinion, that need to be doing better things in their back half than chipping the ball around and getting Brennan Cox 120s in Supercoach. It's ridiculous, and that's no offence to Brennan Cox. I love Brennan Cox. He was my most underrated player in the league going into 2023. And whilst that has aged, I think, relatively okay, it doesn't quite beat the fact I said Josh Dacos will be an All-Australian and then didn't put him in my pre-season team. So, come on, Dazzling, but that's not the point. Yeah, I think Freo are in big trouble. If they don't make a leap this year, I think he's in trouble, because I don't think he can be the list. I really don't. I'm not saying it's a contending list, but are you really telling me that this Freo list can't do what St Kilda did last year in terms of where they finished in that kind of season? Are you really telling me that they are significantly worse than what the Bulldogs served up last year? You know, I doubt it. That's all I'll say. So, Justin Longmuir, let's kick this into gear real quick. Chris Scott, I would argue that he's pretty freezing as well, but I'll put him in the back end of cold. We'll wait and see if we've got any more freezings. Personally, I doubt it. But anyway, let's see. My question about Chris Scott, because a 2022 flag, so no stress there at all. Is it totally bonkers to say that this won't be Chris Scott's last year in Geelong? Now, I know we've heard this story before about other clubs potentially being interested, but if he is going to do a rebuild, which is what Geelong need to do very quickly, and I believe have already started doing, is there a club out there that could go and poach him? Port Adelaide, under Chris Scott, if it didn't work out with Ken. The Bulldogs, if it doesn't work out with Bevo. Could that work? Could that work, I ponder? Might be a video on that, maybe. Damien Hardwick, well, it turns out there is another freezing. You don't sign a 5-year deal on whatever money that he's on. You get the Gold Coast Academy kids, you go through a slow start and Dimmer's out the door, no chance. Him and Fly, for wildly different reasons, are the two safest coaches in the league. I am relatively confident of that. And I'm actually going to put Adam Kingsley in the freezing bit as well. After the first year that they had a point off a grand final, again, even if I should say the Giants have a backward step this year, they're not going to blame the coach and turf him out. Now, I'm actually thinking now that I think Chris Scott should probably go down here, looking at my list, but I am loving where this is at the moment. I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. Sam Mitchell, look, again, in the post-Clarko era, the Hawks are hopefully going to take another step. I love the trajectory that the Hawks are on. I don't think it's freezing. I'm not saying that there's a chance that Sam Mitchell is not the coach at the Hawks, but in terms of that really secure fashion, I just don't see him in the freezing section again. I want specific criteria to end up in the freezing bit. So Hawthorn fans, don't come at me. This isn't me saying we're going to fire Sam or anything silly like that. Please, for crying out loud, hold your horses. All right, relax. Goody. Is it an unpopular opinion? Potentially, but his seat's warm. The off-field stuff's a problem. I think potentially we could see a coach rightly or wrongly, I don't know the situation and I'm not going to comment on it here, but mental health needs to come into the equation at some point as well. Could he lose the drive for coaching? Definitely possible. If Melbourne take a step back that I've seen some people predict for the D's, even potentially missing finals, is it time to cut the cord there, which would be extraordinary just 3 years after a premiership? But then again, if I can do a counter-argument, Melbourne fans, before you hate me, we keep saying that the Bulldogs are hanging on to Bevo for too long, and this is now the 7th year after a flag. This will now be the 3rd for Goody, so at the end of the year, how long's too long? Now, do my instincts say that Simon Goodwin will get sacked? No. I actually think it's more likely he quits than gets sacked, to be honest. But I think the seat's a little warm. Let me know what you think. Clarko, freezing. They're not getting rid of Clarko. No, I actually don't like putting him ahead of Adam Kingsley, I don't think. I think I'm going to put him there. Yeah, North, they've had enough coaching changes, and Clarko needs a full year to figure out what he's got, which I think they did the majority of last year. There is not a single list change that I would regret if I was a North Melbourne fan at the moment. At all. So, that's a win for an off-season. You've got your 5 draftees in. We're hopefully going to see more of Georgie Wardlaw, Braden George. Hopefully Charlie Comben can get a full season in as well, but they're not getting rid of Clarko. Need I say why? No, like, seriously. The problem with Port Adelaide's scenario at the moment is a prelim's probably safe, but good enough isn't, great enough. A grand final's definitely safe, and of course a premiership, and they'll build a statue probably for whoever's decision it was to keep him, let alone Ken himself. I don't think Ken Hinkley's a bad coach. I really don't. I think there are a number of factors that go into not winning a flag. Not every coach wins a flag, we know that. Would he be better in a second job? Who knows? But, you think of all the current premiership coaches, and this is my worry with Dimmer, actually, is that, and, we can go through them. Craig McRae, first coaching job. Chris Scott, first coaching job. Simon Goodwin, first coaching job, not counting the Essendon thing, because that's a wildly unlikely scenario, if you'll allow me. Dimmer for his 3 flags, first time coach, first job. Adam Simpson, first coaching job. Alistair Clarkson, first coaching job. John Longmire, first coaching job. And I think that's it. Yeah, Bomber, Clarko, Bomber, Paul Rouge, Johnny Worsfold, yep. So, Dimmer going to another club and winning flags is extremely unlikely, and off the top of my head, I think Lee Matthews would have been the last to do it. Is Dimmer Lee Matthews? Who knows? Of course, Lee won his first flag in 1990 with the Pies, and then in 2001 was his first with Brisbane. So, hella unlikely that Dimmer gets Gold Coast to a flag, but can he set the foundation for future success? Of course he can. In terms of Ken, it's grand final or bust for mine. Adam Uze, this is what I mean by how much love do we give the freezing section. They're not getting rid of him. He's first year coach. Let him see what he's got, for crying out loud. Let's leave that. Roscoe, an argument to be made that he's freezing as well, but considering the finals, I'm going to put him there. Again, would be extremely unlikely. I'm not suggesting anything like that at all, but yeah, interesting one. The Saints love what they did last year, really do. Love to see how they back it up, but Roscoe's not going anywhere. No one should suggest he will. Johnny Longmire. Controversial, I know, but when you start looking at longevity, no flag for 11 years. Yes, they've had grand finals since. I understand that. And I'm not trying to kick John Longmire out the door, but I think it would be foolish to just call him safe and give him intellectual tenure when we kind of need to see how this Sydney squad goes without the big Budweiser, or however you want to call him. The big Bud. Big, bad, bustling buddy. I think it's warm. I really do. Not flaming. It's like you're sitting in a car seat. You're getting into an Uber and you can tell a customer's just gotten out of it. It's like an uncomfortable warmth. Not something you're really looking for, but it's there and you've got to acknowledge it. Adam Simpson, of course, Simo is flaming. Is he under more pressure than Ken? Jesus, that's a good question. Who's under more pressure? Someone who needs to be good or someone who needs to not be bad? I think someone that needs to be good is under more pressure. But Adam Simpson, look, we don't know how close the Eagles got to sacking him. I know people have got theories or may even have sources inside the club, but you truly do never know. But at the end of the day, if the Eagles are as uncompetitive as they were throughout the year, which I think with better luck with injuries they won't be, they really won't be. I'm not suggesting they're going to win 10 games and push for the 8 or anything silly like that, but they're going to improve, and there's going to be plenty of reasons to get to the footy. Not that the fans need that, because holy shit do they come out in numbers. But yeah, Simo for mine, in trouble. In trouble if things really don't go to plan, because you've got the excitement of Harley, you've got the excitement of such a young group, that young midfield core as well. You know, does a Daniel G and Syracusa, you know, get more excited for that kind of role? You know, does a Chris Newman, does a Scott Burns, you know, all these assistant coaches that are out there, an Ashley Hansen, for example, who might go for that job. It becomes a lot more appealing at the end of 2024 than it does at the end of 2023, let me tell you. And Bevo, I think because of that grand final that he got to in 21, I actually think, oh, Jesus, does it matter? Let me put it this way. Who needs to make the grand final more? I think Ken does, but I think the Bulldogs need to make the finals more than Port. Is that crazy? I'm going to put Bevo there. I don't know how I feel about it, but that's where I'm going to put him. And for obvious reasons, 7 years since the flag. I know they got close in 2021, but the tactical stuff, the positional changes of players, the Jack McRae on a half-forward flank, and the 10 million other reasons that I'm sure plenty of Bulldogs fans will put in the comments. Yes, I think Luke Beveridge deserves to be honoured by the Western Bulldogs Football Club and the Footscray Football Club until his last breath, and for about 100 years after that, because of the flag that he delivered. But you can't overindulge on nostalgia. Okay, it's not fulfilling. It's good to look at. It's a beautiful plate of food until you realise it's a photograph in a magazine and you've actually got to cook something yourself. So, doggies, if it ain't working this year, for crying out loud, get that list a new coach. So here's what we think, guys. 3 in the flaming, 3 warm, 6 cold, 6 freezing. I don't think any of these 12 are going anywhere. I think it's highly unlikely Horse does as well, but just a little bit there for him just as we go through. What do you think? Comment below. Let me know. I love interacting with you guys in the comments. Plenty more videos coming. I'm not sure if there'll be one more this week because I've got a longer form idea on the horizon, and it's going to be a pretty busy weekend. So we'll wait and see, but I'll announce it in the community tab, which is why you should be subscribed to Daz Talks Footy to keep up to date with the latest news and polls. Love getting your guys' opinions on footy stuff that doesn't quite make it into videos. I will see you later, guys. Thank you so much for jumping on. Like the video if you like the video. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.